Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Today, we are going to talk about vulnerability assessment and vulnerability management as part of breaking into InfoSec. And we have Chintan Gurjar with us. He's a cybersecurity professional who is able to bring together extensive technical, operational, and program management experience with him. He's working as a cybersecurity manager at Tesco UK Cybersecurity Practices with a strong technical focus in the Blue Team division. He specializes and actively work within the application security testing, cyber threat intelligence, red teaming, cybersecurity architecture, penetration testing, vulnerability management, cyber maturity assessments, threat hunting, and many more to part of it. Now, Chintan, we will start off with just getting to know about what exactly is vulnerability assessment and vulnerability management.
Right. So there are basically four things: vulnerability scanning, then vulnerability assessment, and then penetration testing, and then vulnerability management. And it works in that hierarchy. So basically, when we talk about vulnerability scanning, it's just about scanning the assets, scanning the targets with the automated security scanners, and then sending those reports to the developers team or to the database team and all other teams. And we don't look into the vulnerabilities, we don't evaluate those vulnerabilities, we just take the reports from the scanner straight away sent to the teams. Now we take one step further and then we do the assessment of those vulnerabilities. So when we do the assessment, we check what is the priority, whether these are false positive or true positive, and what is the priority in terms of the organization structure, and whether these are the valid vulnerabilities or not. And then we evaluate all these things. We also triage, we also take the POC and then send those things to the team. Now, if we go one step further, we don't do the penetration, we don't do the exploitation when we do the vulnerability assessment. Now we do the penetration testing, we take those vulnerabilities knowledge and go one step further, exploit those vulnerability to check whether this is something which we can get access to the infrastructure or network. And that's what the penetration testing is. Now all these things can be a part of the vulnerability management division, and normally the vulnerability manager, they handle all this division, and they handle the team of analysts and engineers and testers, and then they see what is the overall risk of the organization, and then they report to the CISO, they report to the executive board. So that's what vulnerability management is.
Let's say, because when we talk about these things, especially vulnerability management, when you have to manage vulnerabilities, somebody needs to have a basic understanding, or mm, to put it in a way wherein if someone is coming from a totally different background, what should they first do to be part of the vulnerability assessment and vulnerability management profile?
Right. So there are three kind of people who can come into this vulnerability management. And if I talk a little bit about the cyber security, then there are three kind of different people who can come into this. So one type of people are working in normal IT, and then they want to do a transition into cyber, or let's say vulnerability management. Then second, there are students, and then third, third type of people are working in totally different field. Let's say medical field, let's say some financial background and something, and now they want to come into the cyber security, right? So anyone coming from regardless from any background, if they're coming into vulnerability management, right, what they need to do is they need to check what this domain is. So these are the things that I check when I'm making my transition to any domain. I need to check what that domain is, what type of roles company offer in that domain, what type of commercial tools and vendors out there in the market, and what are the daily routine of the people. I mean, if I'm joining in that field, whether it's analyst, manager, or engineer role, what would be my daily routines, and is it demanding or something? What is the future from the past to present to the future? And then you can find some really good books and look at the core syllabus. And once you have the core syllabus, look at the table of content and Google those keywords on the YouTube, on the Google, and try to find the things that whether this is something I'm interested in and all. So, and ask yourself a question: does it fancy you? Now you have done all the research. Does it fancy you? And then you can check for the certification and all. I think these are the things one needs to check whether they are coming to any field of cyber security and vulnerability management.
And does it go same for students as well? Because students have no background in IT or anything. They just have academic background, and then they start working on this field. So what would be the first thing that they should be doing when they move into this kind of a profile, or when they look for moving into such profile?
Right. So I understand the students don't have any background in cybersecurity, and one of the thing which I have noticed is that in universities or in schools, they don't teach or even basics of all the fields within cybersecurity. So the good way to look at it as, if someone is sharing a CISO mind map, now CISO is a one guy who is handling the entire security of the organization, and he would be or she would be handling the and so many domains within the cybersecurity. So there are really good mind maps from SANS, and there is a guy called Rafiq Rahman. He also created a CISO mind map. Now, if students look at these mind map, they know how many different fields are in cybersecurity, and then they start evaluating which field is good, which field is bad, what is the work, whatever I just spoke before a couple of minutes ago. Then they can do this analysis, and they can look for the certification and all. So I think we have to go with some sort of inventory of all the different fields of cyber, whether you go by the CISO mind map or whether you go for the basic CES certification or security plus certification, and then know how many different fields in cyber before jumping it. Because what I have seen is a common pattern that normally students start with the bug bounty and penetration testing, but they are unaware of all these different fields exist, and they can also start as from a basic level for these fields. So yeah, I think CISO mind map and looking at the table of contents from the CEH and Security Plus certification would be a good starting point.
And now, while we are talking about these certifications, what is your view around certifications? And do you think that there are any particular certifications apart from CEH which can be relevant for these kind of roles?
Yeah, so for vulnerability management, so I need to break it down into two parts. So one is a manager level things and certifications for the manager, and one is the certifications for the analysts and engineers, right? So normally the daily routine for analyst and engineer would be triaging the vulnerabilities and communicating those to the teams and providing them with the remediation and recommendation steps and other things. So I think they can have CEH, OACP, and other penetration testing certification, web application security certification from SANS, ELAN Security. And when we talk about the vulnerability management, they can also go for product certification. For example, Qualys, Tenable, Rapid7, Kena Security, Skybox, Nexpose. These are all the vendors in the vulnerability management division. They can go for those certifications. Like Qualys provides some of the free certifications for vulnerability management, so they can go for these certification as well. So basically, they should have a knowledge of basic penetration testing, basic red teaming, web application security, a little bit of bug bounty, and playing with the tool. So they can go for these certifications. And for the manager, there are not a lot of vulnerability management certifications when we talk about managing the vulnerabilities for a large enterprise and cloud. So they can go for some of the SAN certification. For example, I have done MGT 516 now, which is managing the security vulnerabilities for enterprise and cloud. That's from SANS. There is one more from GIAC, which is called GEVA, GIAC Enterprise Vulnerability Assessor. There is one more from SANS, SEC 460, which is Enterprise and Cloud Threat and Vulnerability Assessment. So there are different level of certification for managers, and there are different level of certification for analysts and engineers.
Yeah, very interesting. And if you are a higher authority and you are going to be hiring these people, especially for vulnerability assessment and vulnerability management, what are the things that you will, or what are some of the things that you will look in this resume?
Right. So it's a bit tricky because when we talk about vulnerability management, we are not looking for a specific people who have skills in only application security. They should have all 360-degree skills, right? And I understand that no one in the world can have expertise skill in 360 degrees. So we look for multiple different things, whether they have the basic knowledge or intermediate knowledge. Now, some of the soft skills that I would look for is excellent communication skills, problem solving skills, and critical thinking skill. And when I say critical thinking, then it's very subjective, but they should be asking more frequent questions to themselves, to other stakeholders, to their managers, to their peers. Why this? Why not this? How this? How not this? Why not in this way? What if we do this? And all sort of things. So these are some of the soft skills which are required. In terms of the technical skills, they should have a good grip on the open source tools, for example, vulnerability scanning, some of the open source tool, and they can, if they have experience, then they can go for some of the paid tools like Qualys, Nextpost, Enable, and all sort of things. Even if they don't buy tools, they are not able to afford the tools while they are, coming straight out of the university, but they can at least go on the YouTube. They can learn these tools because there are plenty of videos out there. And then they should have a good knowledge of Windows and Linux operating system. They should have a theoretical knowledge of how DevSecOps works, because when we find vulnerabilities in VM team, then we pass it on to the DevOps team, and we should know how DevOps team work and when they are going to release the patches and all. So some basic knowledge of SDLC, DevSecOps, and they should be familiarized with CV, CVSS scoring systems and how we rate the vulnerabilities. Then a basic of MITRE framework, basic of how internal bug bounty program works within a company, not from the external. And now VM team is one team which is also working closely with the SOC team, incident management team, if there are incident, because then we have to pass our vulnerability knowledge to these teams. So they should be familiarized with how SOC works, how incident management team works, and then in other technical skills like common networking devices, protocols, security policies, architecture. So these are the things that I would look for.
So, when we talk about if somebody has already entered into this field, so how exactly the career progression looks like, and what are the leadership roles or individual contributor roles that exist? Because people always have question like, what are the job titles around this role? What type of companies actually hire for this position, and how exactly I'm going to grow in this particular area? So, if you can share some of the inputs from your experience.
Right. So when someone joins into VM role, they either join as an analyst or engineer, right? And there are different categories for analysts and engineer. Now, analysts will work more closely with the vulnerabilities and assessing part and all sort of things, and engineer will work more closely in the integration part, writing automation scripts and some other stuff. Now, if I combine them together, and then there would be three phase. Now, one is the entry level, one is the senior level, and one is the executive level management, right? So when they start in the VM process, VM team, then they do the normal regular duties like they scan the things on daily basis. They maintain the schedules of the scan from the automated scanners. Sometimes they do POC, and then they download the reports and send to teams. Now these are the entry level roles, and we have already talked about the soft skills and hard skills in these areas, so which is fine. Now if they do it for like 1 year or 2 year, and now they're exposed to all thousands of millions of vulnerability within that company, so now they need to start developing the thought process that I have these things, how I can do much better things in a different way to fix these things at root cause. So for example, someone who is on the senior level, now they need to start developing thinking about how I can fix this in the build template so that I won't have this in future. How I can fix this with the root cause by talking to security architecture team, and then they create the policies and we enforce the policies. How about we add threat intelligence into our vulnerability management? So we have to prioritize, we can prioritize vulnerabilities based on risk and not based on just CVSS, because we also want to fix those vulnerabilities first where the malware is exploiting these vulnerabilities, not just because it has the CVSS rating higher. And how we can increase the coverage, because you don't want to do the web application and IP address scanning for the rest of your life, because how you can increase the coverage of cloud vulnerabilities and cloud operating system, Docker, Kubernetes, and IoTs and other stuff. And how about doing the source code review and taking those vulnerabilities and integrate them into one portal. And then senior level can talk about how we can integrate all these vulnerabilities into one single panel, and we provide a single pane of glass to the teams, and then they come and they see their vulnerabilities of entire IT estate. So these are some of the things that they will develop when they reach to the senior level. Once they are mastering this thing and the daily routine BAU activities, then they can think about how I can mature this program, how I can lead the team of engineers and analysts, and how my activity or my key objectives are helping the entire company's goal in terms of serving the product in a better way. So these are the key responsibilities for, from entry level to senior and then management level.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I've been in these roles and they are very crucial, and there are many ways that you can spread your wings. I also would like to know before we part ways, can you please suggest some podcasts, newsletters, books, or talks which you really feel or like, especially around vulnerability assessment or management, which people can look at?
Right. So so personally, I don't like to read books, but there are really good books on Amazon for the vulnerability management. And the way one should look at it as once you give the vulnerability management keyword in Amazon, sort out the book based on the year, because you don't because there are some really good books from 2008 which has the highest rating, but that thing might be old, so you need to sort out those books based on the year. Normally what I do is I follow hashtag vulnerability management on the Twitter, and I do get the latest news and latest trends on the vulnerability management. And I do also follow. So if I go to Gartner and Forbes and I search for the vulnerability management vendors, then I get the top 10, top 20 vendors, and then I follow all those vendors on Twitter and their YouTube channel and see what products they are building, how they are helping the community, and some other stuff. Same way in the YouTube, I search for vulnerability management and filter by the upload date. So these are the ways I keep myself up to date with latest vulnerability management topic.
Yeah, very, very, very amazing. Because I think books and these things, especially around search engine search, it's very, very important. Like with the right hashtag and what kind of things that you're looking for. Now, is there anything that you would like to talk about or promote about the specific area?
Right. So uh, before joining Tesco, all I knew about VM was, it's, when you scan things and you send it to teams, and I was feeling like it might be a bit of a boring job. But when I come into the Tesco and I know the scale of the company, scale of the vulnerability management problems, complex, objectives and all sort of things, then I feel that this is really great field to be in. And when we talk about vulnerabilities, now vulnerabilities are not dying in a couple of years. So we will have our secure job. And when we are in vulnerability management, we are having multiple millions of vulnerabilities, and you closely work with SOC team, IM team, SIEM team, security architecture team, and DevOps. So this is one central place to be in. And I think this is a great field to be in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. It's one amazing field and where people are very supportive and share a lot of information. So it's
Yeah.
amazing for anyone who wants to enter, or even if a student wants to enter into cybersecurity.
Yeah, and also we work closely with the vendors. So every vulnerability management team in any company, they work with Microsoft to fix that stuff. They work with Cisco, Palo Alto, and other stuff. So I think you can keep yourself up to date with what they are doing, what we are doing, and how we are helping the company. So I think it's a great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Chintan, for sharing wonderful insights. It's really, really helpful.
No worries. Thank you for having me here.